This is one of the most haunted lakes in America, and I had an experience here that scared me. The lake is supposedly haunted by a number of spirits, but the most famous is the Lady in White. Apparently, a number of people have picked up a woman in a white dress while she was standing on the road near the lake, and when they got to her house, she disappeared. There have been so many accidents, drownings, and murders that involve this lake. It's absolutely crazy. Just recently, the body of a transgender woman was found here after she was murdered. The suspect was quickly caught, but it added to the lake's dark reputation. In the 1900s, a plane crashed in this lake, killing all the passengers on board. And it's rumored that there are a number of bodies at the bottom of the lake, stemming from mob activity. Would you go swimming in this lake? I've always wanted to, but I've never been swimming. There's a video on my YouTube channel of me ghost hunting at this lake at night. The link is in my bio, but let me know below. Would you swim in this lake?
Welcome back to the craziest places on Earth. It's been a minute. One of the craziest places on Earth is the Montana Vortex. There are certain things in life that cannot entirely be explained by science. And this is one of them. This vortex is a swirling energy field in the Earth's grid system that completely defies physics. Going to this anomaly will literally allow you to defy gravity. Legit, no one knows why, but people say it feels like a giant magnetic force. And for some reason, people will appear to change height on flat surfaces. People will bring marbles here and they will literally roll uphill. This is the entrance to the vortex. It's gotta be a portal to another dimension. I'm pretty sure when you're in an area where trees are curved like this, it's a sign that you're in a vortex.
So my aunt told me the story of how she was captured by these gnomes at night. My aunt told me that she tried to explain to everyone, hey, this is what happened. I saw these gnomes and they took me to here. But no one would believe her. It was a dangerous place where she lived when she was little. There weren't any lights outside. There weren't any roads. It was just dirt. So one night she heard the sound and she went out to check. And when she checked, she describes it as these little gnomes with these pointy hats. She didn't feel any fear. What she did next was go with and went with these gnomes. My aunt says that it was like this world where there were lots of illuminating lights and it wasn't like Earth. At this time, my grandma was there in the house and she noticed that my aunt wasn't there. Everyone in the household went outside to look for her, like for part 2. So you guys really love the story. So this is part 2 of how my aunt was captured by evil gnomes. So at this point, everyone in the house was looking for my aunt. My grandmother was panicking. She thought that something bad happened to my aunt. So they looked everywhere around the house, but no, they couldn't find my aunt. So you might be asking, where was she? This was late at night and they found her next to the livestock. So they kept goats, cows nearby, and she was there. She was covered in mud. From top to bottom, covered in mud. She wasn't crying. She was just standing there, silent. Eventually they had to wake her up, and that's when she realized what was going on, and that's when she got scared. She cried, she screamed, and she told everyone that she went with the gnomes. Till this day, everyone thinks that she was hallucinating or making it up or it was a dream, but I believe her. I believe that she saw something that night. What do you guys think? Guys, so part 1 had 1 million views, and you know I had to do a part 3. My tia, my aunt, was captured by gnomes, by duendes. So I just talked to her and she gave me more details about her story, about what she saw. So that night when she woke up, when she heard the sound, she went into the kitchen first. And in the kitchen, she was looking for food. And there she found the duende, the gnome. When she was in the kitchen, that gnome, that duende was like, hey, ven aquí, ven aquí. My aunt was curious, so she went with the gnome. She was taken to this place that she hardly remembers. It was very bright. Then all of a sudden she was next to a tree, and next to a tree she saw multiple gnomes, multiple duendes. The gnomes tell my aunt to climb that tree, and so she does. And when she does, the duendes, they form a circle. And my aunt told me that they were performing a ritual. They threw mud at her, and she fell from the tree. And when she fell, they were still throwing mud at her. Throwing and throwing. They even threw cow poop. Yeah, cow poop, really disgusting. Wow, that is disgusting. Luckily, my uncle, he was walking by and he heard this commotion. My uncle was like, ¿Qué haces aquí? And my aunt was like, I'm playing with my friends. Estoy jugando con mis amigos. My uncle looks around and he can't see anyone. He can only hear these kids. And that's when he realizes, man, These are not kids, these are gnomes. My uncle was a big believer of gnomes. And that's when he took out his machete and he was trying to chase these things away. He couldn't see them, but he made sure that he was protecting my aunt. My uncle picked her up, walked her home, and that's when they ran into my grandmother. Based on that experience, my aunt tells me that these gnomes are not your friends. Guys, like for more paranormal stories.
This Redditor is scared her dog might be possessed by a skinwalker. And here's a creepy skinwalker dream she's been having lately. For backstory, I used to live out in a small town I'll call Harristown. I lived in the schoolhouse with my parents, 2 younger siblings, and my younger cousin whom we adopted. The house was cold and very old and was actually demolished a short time after we left. It sat at the bottom of a tall hill across the road from a field that was often full of sheep. We moved away when I was about 13, and I never really thought about the house too much. It always had a weird vibe, an energy I couldn't trust. I told my sister that I thought maybe a man had died in the house and his spirit was still there, because it was definitely a masculine energy. But she just shrugged me off and told me to stop scaring her. About 7 years have passed, and I was lying in bed and fell asleep pretty quickly. I don't normally have very clear dreams, but this one was very eerie. Watch part 2. Part 2 of this Redditor's skinwalker dream. I was sitting on my front porch back in Harris and looking over a field of sheep. They were pretty tightly packed in their herd and all standing around on the dry earth. And as I was staring out at the sheep, one caught my eye. She was looking at me head on, and the more I looked at her, the more the image started to change. It was a man's face, but it was contorted. It had sharp rows of teeth and glowing red eyes. It was honestly like looking into a portal to hell. He stood on all fours, a sheepskin draped over his shoulder while his form changed back and forth. A sheep some of the time, or a terrifying face peeking out of the flock. He was smiling his hideously evil smile, staring right at me, saying, "You can't escape me." And then I woke up, and to be honest, I haven't felt right since. And now, Bo is acting strange.
The creepiest urban legends from around the world, Part 7. Japan, the bath game, a ritual to summon a ghost. To play, you needed to get into a full bathtub naked at night with all of the lights off. You sit in the middle facing the faucets. You close your eyes and wash your hair, chanting Daruma Sun fell down over and over again until you finish washing your hair. In your mind's eye, you should see a Japanese woman standing in a tub. She slips and falls and impales herself on a rusty tap through her eye, which kills her. Then, when you feel her presence, ask out loud, "Why did you fall in the bath?" Then, with the light still off, your eyes still closed, and the bath still full, you can leave the room. Once outside, you can open your eyes. And the next morning, she will be following you and getting closer and closer. To end the game, you need to catch a glance of the ghost and yell "Kita" and make a cutting motion with your hands. And you have to do it before midnight or she'll kill you.
I'm about to show you possible paranormal activity caught on camera at a jail in London, Kentucky. The person who sent me the video is a former corrections officer at the facility. The video focuses on a cell that's supposed to be empty. And remember, correctional officers check cells almost every hour.
It's goddamn creepy. Alright. Is there nobody in that cell?
No!
Nobody's in that cell.
No,
It's closed right there.
when we was right cell there a while ago at 12:12 and there was a...
Oh, my freaking sword.
If you didn't see it, it looks like someone moves in front of the window. Remember, it's a jail, and the only way in or out is through that door you're looking at.
It's time for Cookies and Crime, except this story isn't your typical true crime story, but it does involve the law and the supernatural. I learned about this case in a law class I took in college, and it's so interesting. This is the case of Stambovsky versus Ackley, and the first home to ever be considered legally haunted in America. Helen Ackley and her family owned this home in Nyack, New York. The home was publicly known to be haunted by poltergeists. Helen claimed to have seen a figure of a man sitting in mid-air watching her paint the ceiling in the living room. She asked if he approved of what they were doing to the house, and apparently he smiled and nodded his head. Helen's daughter reported that when she was a child, she would be woken up most mornings by one of the spirits shaking her bed. When Cynthia was about to have her spring break, she announced loudly before going to bed that she did not have school in the morning and would like to sleep in. And the next morning, she was not woken up by a shaken bed. The popular haunted house had appeared in several local newspapers and was also included on a walking tour of the city of Nyack as a haunted house. Years later, Helen put her house up on the market. Jeffrey Stambovsky signed a contract to purchase the house and made a down payment of $32,500. Jeffrey, who was unfamiliar with Nyack and the ghost stories, did not know that he just purchased a haunted house. Obviously, when he did hear of the reputation, he wanted out of the contract. But because he did not attend the closing for the sale of the house, he had to forfeit his down payment. Jeffrey then sued Helen for the return of his down payment. The New York Supreme Court first dismissed his action because New York follows a property law doctrine of caveat emptor. This basically says that the seller has no duty to inform a potential buyer of an alleged haunting. But Jeffrey Stambovsky appealed and won. The appellate court stated that usually this law would be held, but in this case, and I quote, "the most meticulous inspection and the search would not reveal the presence of poltergeists at the premises or unearth the property's ghoulish reputation in the community," unquote. This basically means that no physical search or condition of the home can show that it's haunted, but it's still something that could affect the buyer's decision or affect the value of the home, so it needs to be disclosed. So in order to bypass this law, the court ruled the house legally haunted for matters of law. The legal term for a haunted house is stigmatized property, which means there's some type of condition to the house that's unrelated to a physical condition or feature. A haunted house has a phenomena stigma, and there are other types of stigma like criminal stigma, where the house was either a brothel or drug den before, a murder-suicide stigma, where someone was murdered in the home, and public stigma, where the house is made famous and known to a lot of people, like if you were to buy the house from the Goonies. This home is gorgeous, by the way. You guys should definitely look it up. It was last sold in 2016 for more than $600,000 above comparable homes in Nyack, selling for $1.77 million.
This happened around 5 years ago at my parents' house. So I had just gotten home from the gym and I had my headphones on. As soon as you walk into my house, you see this staircase here. I saw my sister's legs sneaking around this corner of the staircase and I rolled my eyes because I was like, what is she sneaking around for? This is our house. So I went to the kitchen to wash my water bottle. I looked up through the kitchen window that looks into our family room here and I saw my sister sitting on the couch with her headphones on. She was just kind of looking at her laptop. There was no way she could have come down without me seeing her. This is where I was, and this is the only other way to get through to that other room without coming directly through the kitchen, but I'm still gonna see you walk by the kitchen. So I came into this room and I asked my sister whether she had gone upstairs 2 minutes ago. She took off her headphones and said, "No, I've been sitting down here for the past hour watching The Office." I freaked out because I know I saw someone go up that staircase. So I went upstairs, but I couldn't find anyone. I called the cops, they searched the entire house and they couldn't find anyone either. To this day, I have no idea who it was, but those legs looked a lot like my sister's. So I can only assume that it was the ghost of my sister's dead twin.